Welcome to the party. You found the Mouse Castle Lounge, the place to be for good times and great conversations from the world of Disney. The bar is open, your table is waiting, and drinks are now being served. Come on in. And now, here's your host, the keeper of the Mouse Castle Lounge, Tim Calloway.
Welcome to the lounge. It's May 16th, 2018, and I'm Tim Calloway. What a fun show we've got for you today. We're exploring the deepest, darkest, dangerous waters of the world-famous Jungle Cruise with my guest, author, historian, and former Jungle Cruise skipper, David Marley. But first, blow some bubbles, wiggle your ears, and check out all things Mouse Castle at themousecastle.com, where we always wear our trunks. There you'll find our social media links on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Plus, you can subscribe to the Mouse Castle Lounge on iTunes, Stitcher, and Google Play. David Marley is an historian with a PhD from George Washington University. But, that's not important today. What matters is that for 4 years he was a Jungle Cruise skipper at Disneyland. In 2016, he wrote Skipper Stories, True Tales from Disneyland's Jungle Cruise, which contains dozens of interviews with fellow skips past and present. It's an insightful and often very funny look at one of Disneyland's most popular attractions. The book has proven so popular that Volume 2 of Skipper Stories will be out later this year. David is going to share some of those stories with us today, so remain seated and keep your hands and arms inside the boat at all times. And don't worry about that tiger that can jump over 20 feet. We're 19 feet away. He'll pass right over us. David Marley, my guest today in the Mouse Castle Lounge. It is my pleasure to welcome to the Mouse Castle Lounge Dr. Skipper himself, David Marley. How you doing, sir?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. So I have to ask, what is the big deal about being a Jungle Cruise skipper anyway?
It's a big deal. I don't know. We call ourselves the Han Solos of Disneyland.
How so?
We think we're the coolest, funniest people at the park, and we tend to make sure everybody else knows that.
And you stay away from angry children on the catwalk too, right?
Oh, heck yeah.
And that really is the mystique, if you want to call it, about being a Jungle Cruise skipper. I mean, is there any ride or attraction that comes close to the camaraderie and, I guess, coolness factor, if you want to say, of being a Jungle Cruise skipper? And why is that anyway?
There really isn't anything else like it. I think it's because that there's nothing else like the Jungle Cruise. It's the only place where guests will spend 10 minutes alone with one cast member. You get an audience of up to 45 people on a boat, and it's just you, the skipper, and these people, and no one's watching, and you are allowed to entertain them, and your goal is to make them laugh and give them a good time. And so you have this you're not just pushing buttons on a ride or strapping people into rides or selling balloons or whatnot. You have a one-on-one experience with these people, and every ride can be completely different, which also makes it rather unique.
When were you a Jungle Cruise skipper, and was this something that was like this long sought after, desired fantasy job that you always wanted, or was it something a little different?
That was my dream job since I was 7 years old.
Seriously?
Oh yeah. I grew up in Orange, California, maybe 6-7 miles away from the park. And when I was 7, my sister took me to the park. She just turned 16 and had a driver's license, and so for a big day, she took me to Disneyland, just the two of us. And I don't remember anything about that day except waiting in line at the Jungle Cruise, and we were the next people to get on the boat. We were waiting for another boat to come up, and the skipper at the dock was asking, "Oh, where are you from?" And I said, "Orange." "And why are you here?" "I don't know. My sister just took me." And I remember he looks at my sister, looks her up and down, and then he kneels down next to me and nudges me and says, "Be careful. One day she's going to ask you for something." And I remember at that moment thinking, this is the coolest person I've ever met. And when I grow up, I'm going to be a Jungle Cruise skipper. And that was it.
Cool. And okay, so how long did it take you to realize your dream?
It was the summer. It was a long time. It was the summer of '96. I was going to grad school, and I got accepted to go to school back east at George Washington University. And I didn't know if I'd ever come back to California. So I went to Disneyland and made a nuisance of myself until I got hired at Jungle Cruise and worked there for about 6 months. And then I came back to Jungle Cruise when we moved back to California in 2001, early 2002, early 2002.
How long did you stay after that?
Actually, the second time was 3.5 years,
Mm-hmm.
and it was some of the best times of my life. Just loved it.
Kind of take us through the process and your book, Skipper Stories, which is just a totally fun, cool read, and really kind of gives you a real insight into what goes on at the Jungle Cruise. But talk about your experiences a little bit. When you were hired, I mean, how long was the training? How long was it before you were out there piloting the boats yourself?
It was a little bit, and I gotta say this first: that being a Jungle Cruise skipper was the only job that was as cool as I thought it would be. It was maybe even a little cooler. Like, I want to try this and I want to try that, and you do it, you're like, oh, huh. But Jungle Cruise skipper, I'm like, yeah, this is even better than I thought. You go to Disney University for 3 days, and then training was 3 days. They've now expanded it to 4 days. Although I've been able to find out through my interviews in the 60s, the training was a day. They hand you the script. Okay, come back tomorrow. Then you're a skipper.
Have at it. Well, back in
Yeah.
the 60s though, it wasn't quite as silly or as comical as it is today, was it?
It wasn't before about 62 or 63 when some of that art that Mark Davis had created went in. But the elephant pool and the gorilla camp and the rhino chasing the guys up the pole, there were still jokes. People did still do some jokes. It was supposed to be more serious, but it's hard to not be serious when you're off on the own. You're supposed to be entertaining people. But after 63, it went a lot crazier.
And
Yeah.
okay, and so you've gone through your Disney University training, and now you're training on the ride itself. What was that like?
It was fantastic. The first day you get there maybe at 5 in the morning, and so you can tour part of the park before it opens, and you get to tour the attraction before it opens, and you do that the first 2 days. You're there right at dawn, and you practice driving the boat because you get trained at Jungle Cruise. The way they've done this for the past, I'd say 30 years, is they train you at Jungle Cruise and the Enchanted Tiki Room at the same time. So part of that first day is training you at the Tiki Room, which is pretty quick, and then you focus on the Jungle Cruise. And so the first day is a lot of learning the ropes and where everything is and how to drive the boat. And then they give you the script at the end of that first day, and you're supposed to come back the next day and be ready to start doing boats and trips. And then by the third day, it's just practicing and practicing and practicing before you get signed off.
How much of the script did you have? Were you already, kind of new? Had you gone to Disneyland enough to, well, I kind of know the spiel?
When I got hired in '96, I actually hadn't been there in a couple years. So it was the script was, oh, I remember this joke. Oh, wow, this is a whole joke. So it was a little bit of that. And when I came back the second time, I already still had my spiel mostly memorized, and then just kind of went from there. Every scene they give you 7 or 8 jokes you can do for every scene, so you have lots of options.
And you're not technically allowed to go off script, but it happens. What's the most egregious or what is the worst way you ever went off script, or did you always go on script?
I was almost never on script. The rule was, the rules changed, and it varied from manager to manager over the years, but the rule generally had been you couldn't get in trouble for saying something once. And then it became, well, if it's not on the script, you can't say it. And that's about the time that I left.
In fact, it's called the David Marley rule, right?
Yeah, no, I was already planning on leaving. My wife, we were having a baby, so I had to leave. But the timing, it does sound suspicious, doesn't it? But my last summer there, I was hired to be a joke writer for the Jungle Cruise, and they revamped the script in 2004. And it was just one of the best summers of my life. I had so much fun writing jokes and hanging out with Imagineers and working on comedy, and it was a blast. But when it began, they said, "Okay, all of you guys," there was like 6 of us skippers that were working in this team, and they said, "Each of you, we want you to take your boat out, and we want to watch you do your spiel, like your regular spiel. Don't change it for us. You won't get in trouble. We just want to see what you do." So I had the managers and the leads, and I did my boat. And we get back to the dock, and the head lead goes, you only did one joke that's on the script. And I said, yeah, it's that stupid backside of water joke. I can't get rid of it. Everybody likes it.
It's what they expect.
Yeah. He said, I've never gotten complaints about you. I said, well, I'm not doing dirty jokes. I'm not doing racy things or talking about drugs or anything. It all fits the jungle. It just fits my style of comedy, and it's funnier than the script. I didn't find the script super funny. I don't like puns a lot, and the jungle has a ton of puns. They're not my favorite.
Tell me your best David Marley exclusive skipper joke.
All right, this is it. And it could only work at Disneyland, not Walt Disney World. You're coming up to the waterfall, Schweitzer Falls, and you make the sharp turn to the right onto the Nile River. You would tell everybody to lean to the right, lean to the right. So I would do this joke. I'd say, everybody lean to the right, lean to the right, lean to the right. It's okay. It's Orange County. You can lean to the right in Orange County. And that would usually get a big laugh. And I tell this story in the book. I had Billy Idol on my boat. You know Billy Idol, the rock star?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. He was on my boat sitting right in front of me with his plaid and his guests with him. And I do the joke, and I look down expecting him not to get it. And I look down, and he's explaining it to the people in his group. He's explaining the joke, and all I heard him say was, you see, Orange County's like Margaret Thatcher, and it's very conservative. And so I forgot to spiel, and I go down the length between the two elephants on the Nile, and I'm just listening to him explain about American conservative politics, and I'm like, damn, Billy Idol, you know your stuff. And then I realized, I should be doing jokes. And so I went back to doing jokes.
I kind of lost focus there for a second. Billy Idol, Billy Idol, of course, is a celebrity on your boat. What other celebrities or famous names have ridden on your boat?
I didn't have a ton. I had Billy Idol. I had Rachel Hunter, the model. I didn't recognize her till we were almost to the dock. I told a joke, and she looked at me and laughed, and I'm like, oh, yeah, because there was these three women with their kids, and I thought, okay, one of them is famous, and I don't know who. So I told a joke, and she looked at me and laughed, like, oh, okay, you're the model. Okay, I get that. And then I had the Ron Weasley from Harry Potter on my boat.
Rupert Grint.
But it was like when the first or second movie had come out, so I had no idea who he was because I hadn't seen it. And I'm like, okay, there's a guest relations person from Disney and these two adults and these two little kids. And I noticed most people are staring at the two little kids. So I was trying to figure out who they were. And I got back to the dock. I'm like, who were those people? They're like, that's from Harry Potter. And Rachel Hunter, when I got back to the dock, I think every guy that was at Jungle Cruise was on the dock to help her out when I got back to the dock.
Yeah.
Like, I actually thought like something had gone wrong, if there had been an accident or something. I'm like, what's going on? And they were all just standing there with their hands at their side, like at attention, all just waiting.
It's okay. I got this.
Yeah. Like, what the? Oh, okay. I get it. Cute girl. I get it.
Fast forward a few years. When did you decide, or when did you know that you wanted to write a book about your experiences and the experiences of other skippers on the Jungle Cruise?
It was kind of a slow process that sped up at the end, because the Jungle Cruise has just kind of taken over my life. My wife calls it my mistress, because when I left, I started doing a stand-up comedy show where all the performers are Jungle Cruise skippers, and we've been doing that for the better part of a decade. And I started an Etsy store that's all based on Jungle Cruise stuff. And Theme Park Press had approached me about writing a book where I would interview one skipper from each decade to kind of represent the 50s and the 60s and 70s and whatnot. And they offered that to me, and I said, I got a better idea. How about if I interview just everybody I can get a hold of? Because every skipper I've ever met has a good story or two. Even skippers that I may not have thought were that funny have some hysterical stories to tell. Like for the new book, there was this one skipper. I didn't work with her. She worked there after I'd left. But I'd heard good things about her, and she seemed really nice. I'm like, let me interview you. And she's very shy, and she's like, I don't have any good stories. I don't know. And so we met, and it was the longest interview I've ever had. We talked for 3 hours, and she had the most amazing stories. But she's a very shy, quiet person. She's not loud and obnoxious like the rest of the skippers are.
She's very low key about it. What were some of her, or what was one of her better stories?
She had Bono on her boat. And
Nice.
it was just him and his wife and their bodyguard. And as they were coming around by Trader Sam, which is at the end of the ride where you're approaching the dock, she could see that in the Aladdin's Oasis, that old restaurant that they're now turning into a Jungle Cruise themed restaurant, she could see a guy hiding in the bushes taking pictures. And some paparazzi had gotten into Disneyland and were following him. And so his security guard stands up and blocks Bono so they can't get pictures. Then he runs into the Aladdin's Oasis and manhandles the photographer. So
Nice.
security comes and kicks them both out of the park.
Oh my God. That's great.
Yeah. She said he was nice and his wife was fantastic. And yeah, but it was a bit a drama because his security guard were running after the guy and he was huge. I thought he was going to kill that photographer.
But we can't because it's Disneyland.
Right? Exactly.
This comes up a number of times in skipper stories. Jungle Cruise skippers have a penchant for practical jokes.
Yes.
Share some of those. Were you ever pranked, or were you the one doing the pranking usually?
I didn't get pranked. I thought it was a weird thing. We tended to pick on the rookies, and I think I only worked there for about 6 months in '96, and I never got hassled. And then when I came back, they're like, "Oh, he worked here before," so I was like instantly in the club, so they didn't hassle me. But I was notorious for pulling pranks on other people. It's one of the things I loved more than anything else. One time I did get pranked. Remember those little they're like Post-it notes. They're pink, and you use them in offices, and it says, "While you were out, here's a message." Call this person back.
Mm-hmm.
So I get to the Jungle Cruise dock, the little office, and there's one of those pads there on the table, and it had my name on it. It says, "David, call Mike back at this extension." So I'm like, "Oh, I wonder who that is." So I pick up the phone and dial it, and I hear Michael Eisner's office.
Nice.
And I hung up the phone. I was terrified. My heart was pounding, and I thought, "Oh, that was a good bit." And so I looked at the schedule to see who was coming into work next, and I wrote his name on the pad and left the same message for him.
Pass it along to the next guy. Very cool.
Yeah, because you used to be able to call the company, and you could call Florida all through the regular Disneyland line. If you just knew the extension, you could call anywhere. So we used to abuse that regularly.
Nice. What are some of the pranks that you've pulled on other people?
We would there was a prank I pulled on a new skipper, and I don't remember her name. So I hope if she reads the book one day and she reads this and will be, hey, she'll figure out something was wrong. There's the where you go through all the Indian elephant bathing pool.
Mm-hmm.
There's all the elephants there, and then there's the one elephant that tries to squirt you with water.
Right.
And he comes up twice. The first time he squirts water, the second time he pretends to but doesn't. But there's a little cave behind the elephants where you can peek through a little hole and see the mechanism run, and there's also a button you can push to reset it. So on a lunch break, I ran back there with a friend of mine who still works for the company. We ran back there, and I said, "Hey, let's pick on a rookie." So we waited for this girl to come by in her boat, and they get to the squirter. The elephant comes up, it squirts one time, and it goes back down. And as soon as it goes back down, I hit the reset button. So it comes back up. To her, it's the second time, but for the elephant, it's the first time. And it sprays her entire boat with water, just soaks everybody. And you're not supposed to get the guests wet ever. And we laughed and laughed and laughed. And so we sat there and waited. About 10, 15 minutes later, she comes back again, and we soak her a second time, just her whole boat. But we don't do it to anybody else. So we see her coming around again, and we're watching these little holes, and it's her and a manager, just the two of them. And my friend's like, do it again. I said, no. He'll know something's up. We got to watch. So he has her run through it, and he's like, see, the elephant goes up twice. The first time he squirts water, the second time he doesn't. And she goes, he comes up twice and squirts water both times. And so we had her back up and try it again. He's like, see, no, was there something in the way? He was like being very rational and calm, and she was getting madder and madder. No, it does it twice in a row. And we were going to stay there and hit her a third time, but our lunch break was over, so we had to run back to work.
Did she ever find out that you had done that?
Never found out. And we never told her either. So we did a lot of pranks where I realized, we never told anybody. Like we used to call for some reason we used to like to pick on Autopia, but we would call them, and I would say, hey, this is Bill from City Hall. I have some guests here doing a scavenger hunt. Let me know how many red cars you got running. Call me back in 20 minutes. And I'd give them the extension for City Hall. One time the manager's like, we don't have the staff for that. We're really busy. I went, hey, grab a rookie. Count red cars, 20 minutes. Here's the number. Do it. And I hung up.
Oh, my God.
And one of my skipper friends was dating a guy that worked in guest relations. They're now married. And he came over one day. He's like, so, have you guys been calling Autopia? And a couple of us burst out laughing. I went, no. Why?
Why would you ask?
Because about an hour ago they called and said, okay, we have 25 red cars. we said, okay, thanks.
That is evil.
Yeah. So we would call other. Yeah. I have one more phone story if you want to hear one more phone story.
I would love to.
All right. We found out you could call Florida attractions. So they would call. So we would get a call from City Hall, and they would ask us what our wait time is. Like, oh, and we tell it's usually 5 or 10 minutes. So we thought it'd be funny. They'd say, "Hi, what's your wait time?" We would say, "Hold, please," and we would transfer them to Florida. And so one day a manager comes out, and I was the lead. I was the manager that day. He's like, "Hey, David, what's your wait time?" I'm like, 10 minutes. He's like, "Okay. Why does the board on Main Street say your wait is 45 minutes?" I'm like, I don't know.
Oh,
and everybody started to laugh, and he just kind of frowned and walked away. And within a couple months, we couldn't make those kind of calls anymore. They blocked us on the phones at Jungle Cruise.
You ruined it for everyone.
We did. I guess what got us caught is they called one time. We transferred somebody, and they said they told them what the Fast Pass wait time was.
Mm-hmm.
The manager goes, the City Hall guy goes, Fast Pass? You don't have Fast Pass? He's like, yes, we do. And so they found out, oh, God, he called Florida. So, yeah, nice. They disabled the phones for that.
Yeah. But, see what you did. It's all your fault.
Yep. But most of the pranks, a lot of them were on other skippers and whatnot. Sometimes it would be on guests, but a lot of times other skippers.
How do you prank guests? You got to tread lightly there, don't you?
You do, yeah. It just depends on if you get a good boat of people or not. Like if they look like they're going to be fun, or if you get a heckler, you can kind of give them a hard time to kind of keep them in line. Because one heckler can kind of ruin it for everybody.
Yeah. So you get the people on there. You get the ones like, I'm going to say, hate to say it, annual pass holders, but people who are there, let's just say people who are there at the park a lot and know most of the spiels. Do you get people on there that like will intentionally ruin the spiel or ruin the jokes for you?
Oh yeah, all the time. And it is mostly APs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest culprit. But normally, like I would train my trainees that when somebody does that, when they yell out the punchline or something ahead of time, just switch to a different joke. And usually they'll only rattle the rookies who maybe don't know enough jokes to change it up.
Mm-hmm.
But usually that's what they're trying to do. But dealing with with hecklers was kind of my specialty.
What's the best way you ever burned a heckler?
There was because I would tell people that you got to watch the heckler and see what they're trying to get. Like, do they want attention? Or, and sometimes people were just heckling, but they didn't know they were doing anything wrong. They thought they were part of the fun. So if you come down and just insult them, everybody will hate you. So you can't do that. And so I said, you got to figure out why they're doing it. The worst, though, were guys, if you made their girlfriend laugh, some guys would lose it. They would see that as a big threat.
Oh, my God.
Like you were going to take their girlfriend. Total masculine head job. So I had this one guy that was heckling, and I realized he was with a group of guys, 3 guys, and they all had girlfriends. And so about halfway through, I just had it. And I stopped the boat. I go, do you ever find it weird that the one guy who's heckling here is the one guy in this group that doesn't have a girl with him? And everybody laughed, and his friends started like punching him in the shoulder, and he just sunk his head down and stayed that way for the rest of the trip. Back in my head, I'm like, that was kind of mean. And I thought, yeah, but he had it coming.
Yeah, he did. And you just got to keep your fingers crossed so they don't complain to City Hall.
Yeah. And there was one time I was pretty sure I was going to get fired. You know how you drive by the Indiana Jones queue in the Jungle Cruise. You can see the people in line.
Mm-hmm.
Disneyland put up bamboo there to block skippers from being able to yell stuff at the guests. I don't know if you know that.
I know, but it makes total sense.
If you look at earlier pictures, it's just wide open. And then in 2005 or so, they got tired of hearing complaints from guests about skippers yelling stuff at them. So they put up a barrier. It's the only place where guests have to be protected from Disneyland cast members. So there was this. Well, the worst things that would happen is Indiana Jones would break down and all the guests would run over to Jungle Cruise. And they're not there to have fun. They're just there killing time. So they're kind of grumpy and mad, and they're mad at you, but you're just trying to entertain them. So one time, Indy'd been down for maybe 2 hours, so the line was really long. And right as I'm past where the queue is, I can see the whole queue. Right as we get there, I crack a joke. I'm like, da-da-da, punchline. And right when I see the punchline, the whole boat had turned and looked at Indiana Jones and went, ah, all at the same time. And I look, because the cast members had dropped the rope and were letting people back on the ride right when we got there. And so I was just being difficult. So I just stopped the boat because I was mad because I thought I was funny and they didn't laugh. They just went, oh. So I stopped the boat and I went, man, look at that line. That line is getting longer and longer and longer. Look at those people running in there. Man, that line's going to be at least an hour and a half by the time you guys get off this boat. Man, that sucks because look how close we are. And yet we've got so far to go. I just sat there for a good 2 minutes and just had so much fun at their expense till a boat almost hit me from coming from the dock because I sat there for so long. And I kind of laughed and hit the throttle and started going and went back into my spiel. And then I realized, oh, yeah, I just spent 2 minutes pissing all these people off. They're not going to laugh at a single thing I have to say.
Oh, my God.
So
did they just kind of sit there and look at you?
Oh, they were done. They were done with me. You could just see the hate in their eyes. And I did all my best jokes and voices, and I was doing everything I could. I'm like, nope. I burned this bridge. This bridge is burned. And so I just kind of floored it back to the dock as fast as I could.
Oh, my God. let's just get this right over with and be done. And,
yep.
And please don't tell my boss. Oh, my God, that's great.
Yep.
You mentioned that you have an Etsy store with Jungle Cruise-like merchandise. Talk a little bit about that. What kind of stuff do you make?
I make a lot of stuff based on my love of the Jungle Cruise. So I make signs. I started out making metal signs that say things like danger, hippos, and whatnot, and I take them out to the desert and shoot them up so they look all authentically and old and beaten up and shot up. And I started doing tiki carvings and tiki masks, and some of it's based on Jungle Cruise stuff. Some of it's just my own designs. I do a couple Jungle Cruise-based stickers, but most of it's tiki carvings and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been going for about 4 years, and it's been really successful and a lot of fun to make stuff.
Very cool. And if people want to find it, what's the web address? What should they look for?
It's on Etsy. It's called Dr. Skipper's Jungle Hut on Etsy, ETSY. But Dr. Skipper's Jungle Hut will take you to my wonderful store. Yeah, I started out because I wanted to buy some tikis for my backyard. They were like $350, and I thought, I can make one cheaper than that. Answer is nope. Once you buy all the tools and yeah, right. And the hospital bill because I sliced my hand open more than once, and so it took me a while, but it's a lot of fun to make stuff. It's a good outlet to have all that art out there for me.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And Skipper Stories, of course, is available now. You're working on the second volume of Skipper Stories. Is there an ETA on when that might be out?
This one will be out in November, just in time for Christmas.
Oh, very good. Put it on your Christmas list.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of good skippers. This first Skipper Stories has a lot of people from the 90s and the 2000s, and I wanted to get more and more people. My wife said, honey, when this first book comes out, all these other people you want will come out of the woodwork. So I was trying to track people down, and sure enough, the book came out, and people from the 50s and 60s, hey, I got stories, and so that's been so much fun, because in the first book, I talk about the first time women were allowed to work at Jungle Cruise, which was 1995. And then I met a guy who said, that's not right. There were actually women that worked there in the early 70s. And I researched it and couldn't find anything written about it. But I found a skipper who said, oh, yeah, it was this one summer. And I think it was 73 or 72, just for the summer. And then I found found a skipper who worked there. He's like, oh, yeah, I worked with those women. They were funny. And it was 7 women that worked there just for a summer. And when the summer was over, the head manager of the west side of the park said, I don't want women working in Jungle Cruise, send them back.
Aww.
So he said, and one of the ladies had been a Disneyland ambassador. So they were like well-known Disney cast members, and they did it as an experiment. And I asked one guy, he said, did you, were they hassled or were they hazed at all? And the guy goes, oh, hell no, we were trying to date them.
and then after this, it's 20 some odd years before they come back.
Before it happened again, yeah.
Oh,
and
my
I
gosh.
covered that in the first book, but the second book's going to cover the kind of the false start with having women there earlier, and it's all kinds of fun things in the second book, all kinds of fun topics and stuff that I didn't anticipate. It's been a lot of fun to work on. Skippers that have gone on to become Imagineers or work at other companies high up and VPs of different companies, and just to see where they've all gone and how they still credit the Jungle Cruise for giving them such a leg up when it came to doing their jobs. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, and unlike any other attraction in the park. And Skipper Stories is available from Theme Park Press at themeparkpress.com and also on Amazon.
Also on Amazon.
All right, David, this has been an absolute pleasure. Would love to have you back on the show again in November when to talk about Volume 2. And thank you so much. I would love that too. Thank you so much for being our guest today in the Mouse Castle Lounge.
All right, thank you so much for having me.
And that will do it for this edition of the Mouse Castle Lounge. Thank you, David Marley, for being my guest. Next week, Denise Chamberlain will be in the lounge. She's an artist who created the largest outdoor mural in the state of Colorado. And if that's not impressive enough, she's also the great niece of Disney legend, Mary Blair. Be sure to keep up to date with the Mouse Castle Lounge by visiting us at themousecastle.com. I'm currently selling items from my personal collection of Disney memorabilia, so if that interests you, and I suspect it does, when you're on the website, just click the Mouse Castle Sale to see it all. Also, if you want to see some of the cool stuff I do when I'm not producing a podcast, check out my voiceover website at vegasvoiceactor.com. The Mouse Castle Lounge is not affiliated with the Walt Disney Company. I just like to talk about them. I'm Tim Calloway. It's been a blast as always, so let's do this again real soon. Take care.